They didn't see me at first. They only felt the heat, the weight of the air, the silent pressure between the trees. That's how I like it. Hidden, close. Their squad stepped into the jungle at 5:40. 8 soldiers, faces painted, rifles up, moving through the vines like they had trained 1,000 times. They were looking for another patrol that had gone missing 48 hours earlier. They didn't know the truth. They didn't know I had them already. I watched them from the canopy, my body blending with the roots, the branches, the soil. I don't hide because I fear them. I hide because it's how I hunt. The point man, Sergeant Coleman, stopped first. He heard something, a whisper, very soft, very close. He raised his fist to stop the squad, scanning the undergrowth. He thought it was an animal, a bird, maybe the wind. It was me. They moved again, slower now, more cautious, rifles sweeping left and right. Sweat rolled down their necks, boots sank into the mud. The deeper they went, the darker the jungle became. Even the insects avoided that part. Even the heat felt unnatural. They walked until they found it. The first sign, a boot, just a boot. It still had a foot inside. Coleman crouched, stay sharp, eyes open. His voice cracked for the first time. The radio operator tried calling their missing squad again. Static answered. Thick, distorted static. Static that wasn't from interference. I pushed my voice into it, letting the sound twist as it reached the radio. Help! Us! 3 of them jumped. The radio man's face went white. Sir, that sounded like Reyes. Reyes had been missing for 2 days. He wasn't speaking anymore. But I was. They advanced another 100 meters until Private Harris saw movement ahead. A figure, standing between the trees. He pointed his rifle, hands shaking. Identify yourself. The figure didn't move. I made it step forward, slow, deliberate. The uniform was soaked in mud, the body stiff, head tilted unnaturally to the side. Harris lowered his gun a few centimeters. Reyes? The figure lifted its head. The neck cracked loudly. The thing that used to be Reyes opened its mouth. No words came out. Just a long, wet exhale. A sound that didn't belong to anything alive. Then I pushed it at them. Gunfire exploded. Bullets cut through vines, bark, flesh. Reyes's body fell, but I didn't let it stop. The corpse crawled toward them, dragging itself through the mud, arms twitching like broken branches. They ran back. They tried to regroup, but they were scattered now, exactly how I wanted them. Private Doyle was the first I took. He slipped on a root, rolled down a slope, and landed alone near a rotten log. He tried to radio in, but I pulled the signal away again. Static, then breathing. My breathing. He pressed the device tight against his ear, terrified. Who's there? Say your call sign. I answered by stepping behind him, letting my shadow cover his back before he felt it. He turned his head, slow, trembling. He saw me. Not a shape, not a silhouette. Me. He tried to scream, but my hand was already around his mouth. I dragged him into the undergrowth so fast he didn't even drop his rifle. The others only heard one thing, a short, sharp gasp, then nothing. Second was Lieutenant Myers. He kept shouting orders, trying to maintain control, but he shouldn't have split the squad. Moving in pairs only made it easier for me. He and Private Lopez were advancing along a narrow path when I rustled the leaves behind them. They spun around, rifles raised. They saw nothing, so I gave them something to see. A figure sprinted across the path, fast and low. They fired instantly. The recoil echoed through the forest. Lopez's body jerked, chest torn open. Friendly fire. They never even realized I had made them shoot the wrong direction. Myers dropped to his knees, hands shaking, whispering apologies to the body. I leaned over his shoulder, letting him feel the cold on his neck. He froze. He didn't dare turn around. I whispered through his ear, "Keep shooting." He did. He emptied his magazine into the trees. Fire and fear mixed into one. When he finally stopped, I snapped his neck and let him fall beside Lopez. Now, only 3 remained: Coleman, Harris, and the radio operator, Mason. They formed a tight circle, rifles outward, breathing loud, hearts frantic. "Something's out here," Mason muttered. "Yeah," Coleman whispered, "but it bleeds. Reyes didn't move natural. It's not human." Harris swallowed. "What do we do, Sarge?" Coleman took a moment. "We push out, back to the LZ, slow and steady." I made sure they didn't get far. Branches cracked above them. Leaves shook. They aimed their rifles upward. Nothing. Then I dropped Doyle's body from the canopy. It hit the ground with a heavy, wet thud. Arms twisted, face pale, eyes open. Mason screamed. Harris panicked and fired into the treetops. Coleman grabbed him by the vest. "Control yourself." He couldn't. He was shaking too much. So I stepped out from the brush, fully visible this time. A tall, dark figure, skin like mud and bark fused together. Eyes hollow, but watching. They froze, all 3, the same way prey freezes before impact. I moved fast, right through them. Harris's body flew into a tree, spine bending the wrong way. Mason tried to run, but tripped. He crawled backwards, crying, begging, raising the radio as if it could save him. I crushed it under my foot. Coleman tried one last desperate thing. He stood his ground. He aimed at my head, finger tight on the trigger. He whispered, "You're not taking me." I admired his courage, so I walked up to him slowly. He fired. Again. The bullets sank into me like they were hitting soft clay. His face collapsed into terror. I wrapped my hand around his throat and lifted him off the ground. His legs kicked. His hands clawed at my arm. I squeezed until everything stopped. When I finally dropped him, the jungle fell silent. No gunfire, no radios, no breathing. Just me and the trees, waiting for the next patrol. They were trained for this. Cold, altitude, blizzards. None of it scared them. But they had never met me. The unit climbed into the mountains before dawn, boots carting into the snow, breath turning into steam as they moved in formation. A training patrol, simple route, advance to checkpoint Sierra, confirm the beacon, then return to base. But the beacon had been silent for hours because I had already reached Sierra. The first thing they noticed was the wind. It wasn't just strong, it pushed back against them in short, sudden bursts, like something breathing cold air straight into their faces. Their sergeant, Anders, raised a fist to slow the squad. "Whiteout incoming," he warned. "You should have turned them around." But I didn't let him. The storm rolled in fast. One moment the sky was clear. The next, everything turned white. Snow moved sideways, stinging their eyes, burying their tracks almost instantly. They tightened formation and pushed forward, faces buried in balaclavas. They thought the storm was natural. It wasn't. It was me. I walked with them, invisible, inches away from their backs. Whenever one of them thought he heard footsteps in the snow behind him, he turned to see only whiteness. Private Kell was the first to break formation. He saw something, a figure ahead, still, tall, facing them through the snow. "Anders, contact front." The squad halted. They raised their rifles, squinting through the storm. The figure didn't move, didn't react. It just stood there. Anders shouted, "Identify yourself." Nothing. Then I made it take one step forward. Kell fired 3 shots. The rest followed. But the snow swallowed every bullet. The figure dissolved in the wind, scattering like powder. They didn't understand. They thought it was the Whiteout playing tricks on their eyes. No, it was me guiding them into panic. They moved again, with less confidence now. The storm thickened around them, visibility dropping to a few meters. Every breath sounded too loud, every heartbeat too fast. When Private Drew slipped, falling knee first into a buried hole, the others rushed to pull him out. His leg was twisted awkwardly, not broken, yet. Anders knelt beside him, trying to calm him. That's when Drew felt me. A hand on his shoulder. He jerked violently. "Something's behind me!" The others saw nothing, only snow. "Drew, focus," Anders said. "You're in shock. We're getting you up." But Drew's eyes were fixed behind him, wide and glassy. Because I let him see me. Just him. He screamed so loud it vanished into the wind. He clawed at the snow, trying to crawl away, but Anders held him down. "Drew, snap out of it," I whispered into Drew's ear. Not words, just a cold breath. His body convulsed, then stopped moving. Anders checked his pulse. Nothing. Dead in seconds. No wounds, no blood. The squad backed away, fear finally sinking in. "What the hell happened to him?" Private Mora muttered. "He went into hypothermic shock," Anders lied. "Stay close. No one moves alone." But hypothermia doesn't leave a face frozen in terror. He knew that. They all knew. They carried on, leaving Drew's body behind. The blizzard swallowed it within minutes. The next one to fall was Howard. He heard footsteps to his right, slow, crunching steps. He signaled to Anders and aimed his rifle toward the sound. Nothing but white. Then the footsteps came again, closer this time, right beside him. He turned his head. I let him see a shadow moving past him. Too tall, too thin. He fired. The recoil echoed through the storm. "Howard, what are you shooting at?" Anders barked. Howard didn't answer. He dropped his rifle and started running blindly into the whiteout, panic overriding training. The squad shouted after him, but the snow devoured their voices. He didn't get far. I stretched the wind around him like a wall. He pushed through it until he collapsed, suffocating in fear. His body froze before the others even found his tracks. 2 down. 4 left. They huddled now, backs to each other, rifles trembling in their hands. The storm circled them, tighter and tighter, a vortex of white noise and broken nerves. Mora started whispering, "This isn't right, Sarge. There's something out here." Anders didn't answer at first. His jaw was clenched, eyes scanning the blizzard as if he could see through it. "Keep it together," he finally said. "We move as one. No more mistakes." But they were already making another. They kept moving toward the checkpoint. Checkpoint Sierra. My home. When they reached it, they froze. The beacon pole was bent in half, the metal crushed, the transmitter shredded, snow covered old bloodstains, blood from the first patrol. "Jesus Christ," Mora whispered. Anders inspected the beacon with shaking hands. No animal did this. He looked up at the squad. He didn't need to say it. They already knew. Then they heard the footsteps all around them. 6, no, 8, 10 sets of footsteps circling in the white. They formed a defensive circle, rifles outward, breathing fast. "Show yourself," Anders shouted. So I did. I let them see silhouettes first, tall shapes moving just beyond visibility, shadows walking in a slow circle around them, synchronized with the storm itself. Private Lawn broke. "What the hell is that?" Anders yelled. "Hold your fire!" But I stepped closer, 1 meter behind Lawn. He spun, firing wildly. The muzzle flash lit my shape for a split second. Long arms, black frost crawling across my skin, eyes hollow and sunk deep. He screamed. I pulled him into the storm. His scream faded instantly. 3 left now. Mora dropped to his knees, trying to pray, but his voice was shaking too hard. Storm swallowed his words. I appeared beside him. He didn't even look up before I dragged him into the snow, burying him under layers of frost until his heartbeat stopped. 2 left, Anders and Vic. They backed away from the circle, rifles raised, breath ragged. "Anders," Vic whispered, "we're not getting out of this." "No," Anders said, "we're finishing the mission." He fired at me. Bullet after bullet tore through the snow, hitting nothing solid. When he reloaded, I was already behind Vic. I snapped his spine with 1 pull. Anders screamed and charged at me, not running away, charging. Rifle like a spear, eyes furious. For a second, I admired him. He plunged the bayonet into my chest. The blade sank in, but I didn't move an inch. He stared at me, frozen by the truth. I wrapped my hand around his skull, lifted him off the ground, and smashed him into the snow. His helmet cracked, his breath stopped. The storm eased, the blizzard softened, silence returned. I stood among their bodies, alone in the white. I left the mountain quiet again, until the next unit comes looking for them. The desert hides everything: bodies, footsteps, whole structures swallowed by the dunes. That's why I chose it. The squad arrived at 2110, just after sunset. 4 soldiers from a reconnaissance unit moving across the sand with night vision goggles and suppressed rifles. Their mission was simple: check an old underground bunker exposed by a recent sandstorm. Satellite images showed a crack in the ground, an entrance that hadn't been there the day before. I made sure it was there. Sergeant Holt led them. He walked slowly, rifle up, scanning the dunes. The desert was quiet, too quiet. No wind, no insects, not even shifting sand. They noticed. They always do. "What's with the silence?" Private Brooks asked. "Temperature drop," Holt answered. "Sound dies at night out here." He was wrong. Sound dies when I don't let it live. They reached the fissure after 20 minutes. It was wide, too wide for a natural collapse. The sand sloped down into darkness, like a throat swallowing the moonlight. Corporal Reyes aimed his light inside. The beam hit a wall. Metal, old, rust-eaten. "The bunker's real," Reyes said. Of course it was. I used to live there. They clipped ropes to their harnesses and descended single file. Their boots scraped metal as they touched down inside. The bunker stank of old fuel and wet sand. A long corridor stretched forward, graffiti from decades ago carved into the walls. Holt checked his map. "Blueprint says 2 levels. Stay sharp. We don't know if it's stable. Stable or not, didn't matter. It was mine." They advanced slowly, beams of light cutting through dust. Every step echoed. Every breath bounced back at them. Private Lang lagged behind, feeling something at his back. He kept turning around, seeing nothing, but feeling me. They reached the first intersection. Holt signaled a stop. There were footprints in the sand, fresh, leading deeper inside. Reyes knelt to inspect them. Not ours. Human. Barefoot. Brooks swallowed hard. Who the hell walks barefoot in a bunker? Reyes didn't answer. I could see the thought forming in their minds. Someone is down here with us. They moved carefully now, rifles tight against shoulders. I dragged my fingers along the ceiling above them, slow and scraping. The sound echoed like metal bending. Brooks spun around, light shaking. "Something's moving up there." Holt scanned the ceiling. Nothing. They pushed deeper into the bunker. The air grew thicker, warmer. They passed broken panels, overgrown wiring, and long scratches on the walls. Scratches far too high for any human to reach. Lang stopped again. He heard breathing. Right behind him. He whipped around, rifle raised. His light caught a glimpse. A shape sliding behind a steel pillar. Tall, thin, distorted by shadows. "Contact rear," Lang yelled. The others turned. Their lights found nothing. Holt cursed. Lang, you're jumpy. Focus. Lang didn't argue. He knew what he saw. He just didn't have time to see it again. I waited until he took 3 more steps. Then, I dragged him into the side corridor. He didn't scream. I covered his mouth too fast. Only the sound of boots scraping the floor remained. The others noticed the gap in formation immediately. "Lang!" Holt called out. Silence. They swept the corridor with lights, rows of pipes, loose sand, old machinery, and one long streak across the floor where Lang had been pulled. Reyes knelt. Blood, fresh, dark. Brooks whispered, "We're not alone in here." Holt's voice went flat. "Weapons up, move." They advanced more tightly now. Brooks kept checking the ceiling. Reyes watched the corners. Holt checked the map every 10 seconds, trying to maintain control. They turned another corner. Found Lang. His body was propped against the wall, eyes open, jaw slack, chest torn open, rib cage split like wet cardboard. Brooks retched. Reyes backed away, hand covering his mouth. Holt knelt beside the corpse, inspecting the wounds with clinical horror. No blade marks, no shrapnel. This was ripped. He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. They kept moving, desperate to finish the mission and get out. But the bunker changed as they walked. Corridors that shifted slightly, doors they swore weren't there before. I moved the sand beneath the floors, opening and closing passageways behind them. Reyes noticed. "This place, it's not the same layout anymore." Brooks panicked. "We're trapped. Halt. We're trapped." The sergeant grabbed him by the vest. "Get it together." Then the lights went out. Not their lights, the bunker lights. Old bulbs flickered on, buzzing alive after decades of silence. Yellow, dim, blinking like nervous eyelids. Reyes pointed his rifle upward. "Power's back." "How?" "Because I brought it back." The hallway ahead of them illuminated one section at a time, like something crawling toward them. They tried to step back, but the lights behind them shut off completely, sealing them in darkness. Holt swallowed his fear and led the way. They approached the final chamber. The lights inside were brighter, fluorescent, almost clean. Too clean for an abandoned bunker. The sand was swept aside in perfect lines. The walls glistened as if polished. Brooks whispered, "Someone's been living here." Holt didn't respond. That's when they saw the breach. The real one. In the center of the chamber was a massive hole in the floor, edges melted, not broken. A circular tunnel leading down into pure black. Holt approached cautiously, light pointing inside. His face went pale. Something moved at the bottom, fast, upward. "Back!" Holt shouted. But I was already climbing. My hands gripped the edge of the breach first, long fingers, skin stretched tight like sun-dried leather. My head rose next, eyes reflecting their lights like glass. Reyes fired first. The bullets punched into my chest, sand spraying everywhere, but I didn't stop climbing. I dragged half my body out, towering over them, limbs bending wrong, mouth opening wider than a man's shoulder. Brooks froze. Reyes tripped. Holt tried to pull them back, I went for Reyes. He screamed as I lifted him by the throat, slamming him into the wall hard enough to crack metal. Brooks fired blindly, bullets ricocheting. Holt dragged Brooks toward the exit tunnel. Reyes stopped moving. I dropped him. My attention shifted to Brooks next. He tried to run. He didn't get far. I grabbed his leg, yanked him back, and threw him across the room like sandcloth. His body hit the floor limp, breath gone. Only Holt remained. He fired until his rifle clicked empty. Then he threw it and drew his knife. Last act of defiance. He charged, a desperate, brave attempt. The blade stabbed into my shoulder. I barely felt it. I wrapped my hand around his neck and lifted him off the ground. His knife dropped, clanking on the floor. He struggled, kicked, tried to tear my fingers off. I squeezed until his body went still. When I let him fall, the bunker lights flickered again. The storm outside began to rise. I dragged all their bodies back into the breach, feeding the place that feeds me. By sunrise, the entrance was buried again. Just another dune, just another secret, until the next sandstorm opens my door. Submarines always feel safe. Steel walls, pressure doors, sonar, routines. They think nothing can reach them at 4,000 meters below the surface. They're wrong. I can. The SSN 403 slipped beneath the waves at 1932. A fast attack submarine with 60 crew members aboard. Their mission was classified, but I didn't care about that. I only cared that they were coming straight into my depth. The water around them darkened as they descended. Lights from the hull cut through the black like thin blades, fading after only a few meters. They were blind down here. They didn't hear me approach at first. My movements blended with the current, slow and steady. I followed the submarine along its hull like a shadow slipping across steel. Inside, sonar technician Mills rubbed his eyes. "Sir, I have a contact." The sonar supervisor leaned over him. "Where?" Mills pointed at the display, confused. "It's right on top of us." "That's impossible," the supervisor thought. They always think that. The blip vanished because I moved. They brushed it off, returning to their routine. The submarine continued deeper until the water pressure groaned against the hull. Then I touched the metal. Just once. A heavy, deliberate knock. Clang. The entire vessel shuddered. The sound shot through every compartment, rattling pipes and waking sleeping crew. "Captain," someone shouted from engineering, "we've got external contact." Captain Harlan stormed into the control room. "What contact? Depth charges? Debris?" "No, sir," Mills whispered, staring at the display. "Something hit us. Hard." Harlan frowned. "From what?" "We're at 3,800 meters. There's nothing out here." He was trying to convince himself. I knocked again. Clang. Louder. Closer. They all froze. Not fear. Not yet. Confusion. Confusion is always first. Harland ordered a full stop. The engines quieted. The submarine drifted in the darkness like a trapped animal. The crew waited. The ocean waited. I didn't. I slid past the bow, scraping my claws across the metal. A long, grinding drag. Skrrk. Dozens of heads turned at once. What the hell was that? Someone yelled. Harlan's voice tightened. Sound team, identify that noise. They couldn't. Nothing in their database matched it. I moved to the side of the submarine, letting the sonar catch me just long enough. A shape. Large. Too large. Mills swallowed. So, the reflections. It's the size of... He never finished. Because I hit the hull again. Harder. Through. This time alarms blared. Pressure sensors spiked. Lights flickered. Someone screamed as pipes vibrated overhead. I wrapped my hands along the top of the hull, fingertips digging into the metal until it bent. The crew heard it bending. They saw bolts deforming. They felt the entire submarine tilt as I pulled downward. Harlan grabbed the nearest rail. Engine room! Power up! Full reverse! The engines roared to life. The submarine jerked backward, metal shrieking as it tried to break free. It didn't. I held on. Inside, panic finally bloomed. Crew members rushed to stations shouting over each other. Pressure rising on port side. We've got structural stress on frame 19. We're going to crush if this continues. Harlan slammed his fist onto a console. What is attacking us? I answered by sliding under the hull. The sonar erupted. Ping. A shape. Ping. Bigger. Ping. Moving up the keel. Mills whispered, voice trembling. Sir, whatever it is, it's climbing us. The submarine shook violently. Lights went red. A pipe burst near the galley, spraying hot water. In the torpedo room, sailors scrambled as the floor tilted. One of them, Petty Officer Grant, looked at the ceiling and froze. He saw me. Just for a second, my silhouette pressing against the metal like something too big to exist. A massive outline, with arms extending far beyond human length. He started praying. I dug my claws into the side of the hull and struck again. Boom! A dent, the size of a man, bulged inward. Grant screamed. The entire compartment echoed with it. Alarms intensified. Breach imminent. Frame 15 compromised. Harlan took control. Blow ballast tanks. Get us up now. The submarine lurched upward, rising fast. The hull groaned under the stress of rapid ascent. I didn't let go. I dragged my body along the side, scraping long trenches across the metal. Sparks flew underwater. The temperature of the hull rose from friction. Then I struck the bow. The dome! The submarine spun slightly, crew falling across consoles and floors. Harlan gave one last desperate order. Launch a decoy. Anything. They fired a sonar decoy into the dark. It drifted downward, mimicking their acoustic signature perfectly. I ignored it. I stayed on them. As they rose to 2,500 meters, structural alarms started quieting. Hope flickered inside them. That's when I crawled across the bow viewport. The crew in the forward compartment saw my face pressed against the glass, skin stretched thin, teeth too long, eyes black and wide in the deep. One sailor fainted. Another pulled his pistol and fired at the glass, screaming. The bullets bounced harmlessly. I slid away, letting the terror sink in. Then I struck the viewport frame, A sharp, brutal hit. Crack. Tiny fractures appeared. The sailors panicked instantly. The glass is failing. We need to seal the compartment. But they couldn't move fast enough. I hit it again. Crack. Water seeped in through the edges. A thin line at first. They tried sealing the bulkhead. They didn't make it. The last thing they saw was my hand pushing against the outside of the window. Slow, deliberate, before the glass finally shattered inward. Water exploded through the compartment. Screams cut off instantly as they were thrown back, bones breaking against metal. I entered with the flood. Inside the submarine, chaos erupted. Harlan ordered bulkheads sealed, but the pressure tore them apart. I moved through the corridors behind the water, letting it carry bodies past me. One by one, compartments flooded, metal twisted, lights died, voices stopped. In the pitch-black wreck, I drifted through the remains, pulling what was left into the dark. By dawn, the submarine rested on the ocean floor in silence. No signals, no alarms, no survivors. Only me, waiting in the deep again. They thought the bunker was empty. That's why they sent a small team. 4 operators from a special response unit moved through the forest at 2:13. NVGs on, rifles suppressed, boots silent on wet soil. The abandoned military installation, codenamed Bunker 12, had been off-grid for 30 years. No power, no personnel, no reason for anyone to be there. Except me. I'd been waiting in the dark for decades. The squad reached the old perimeter fence first, rusted, torn open from the inside. They aimed lights through the breach. Something forced its way out, Corporal Hayes muttered. Not out. Up. Sergeant Kane led them inside. Stack up on the main entrance. Move. The bunker door was massive. Steel, reinforced, hydraulically sealed, or supposed to be. Now it hung slightly open, claw marks deep in the metal. Hayes ran his fingers along the grooves. No human did this. He was right. They entered. The bunker swallowed their lights instantly. Thick darkness soaking every beam. Dust drifted like slow snow. Old papers lay scattered, yellowed by humidity. Every door they passed was either bent or ripped off its hinges. Something moved behind them, soft, low. They spun, rifles raised. Nothing. Kane whispered, "Stay focused. It's an old structure. Things settle. No. Things watch." They reached the central hall. Rows of desks, overturned cabinets, dried stains on the floor that weren't rust. The bunker smelled stale, metallic, and something else. Hayes sniffed. "You smell that?" Private Locke answered. "Rot, but fresh." They all felt it. The sense that the air wasn't dead. Something was breathing it with them. Kane pointed to the far door. "Command room is beyond that. We clear it and extract." They advanced. I followed just behind Locke, my footsteps perfectly silent. He kept turning around, whispering, "I swear, someone's here." He was right. I was. They entered the command room. It was large, circular, cables hanging from the ceiling like vines. Old monitors covered the walls, screens cracked. A generator sat in the corner, dead for decades, or it should have been. When they stepped toward the center of the room, lights flickered once, then again. Then the entire bunker hummed to life. Old bulbs snapped on overhead, flooding the room with sickly yellow. The sudden brightness stunned them. Locke raised his rifle instantly. Power's back? How? Because I brought it back. Monitors lit up one by one, cycling through static and corrupted images. Clips of the original personnel running, screaming, dying. Their voices echoed faintly from old speakers, distorted and looped. Kane's jaw tightened. This place wasn't dead. Hayes pointed at a screen, glitching violently. Look, freeze that. A figure appeared on the monitor, tall, bent, skin stretched thin, black eyes reflecting the camera, watching the old crew, watching them now. Locke stepped back. Sarge, that thing's still here. Kane's voice hardened. Form up. We're leaving. Now. But the bunker door slammed shut behind them. Metal echoed all the way through the corridors. They froze. Hayes ran to the door, pulling at the hydraulic handle. Locked. Something locked us in. It wasn't something. It was me. Locke panicked. Open the door. Open it. Kane grabbed him. Locke, breathe. But Locke's eyes weren't on the door. He was staring at the ceiling, at me. I let them see just enough. A silhouette crawling upside down across the pipes, limbs bending around metal beams, head twisted sideways as I stared back. Locke's scream echoed through the hall. Hayes fired upward. The bullets rippled across the ceiling, sparks falling like tiny meteors. I slid back into the vents, letting their panic rise. Kane pulled them into a defensive circle. We moved to the lower level. Emergency exit hatches there. They ran through the hallways, boots slamming against concrete. Lights flickered as they passed, like they were chasing them. The lower stairs groaned under their feet, cold, damp, alive. Halfway down, something grabbed Locke's leg. He fell instantly, screaming as he was dragged into the dark beneath the stairs. Hayes lunged, grabbing his arms. Kane fired downward, bullets thudding into something solid. I loosened my grip, just long enough for Locke to look up. He saw my face an inch from his, skin gray, jaw unhinged, teeth long and thin like needles. Then I ripped him into the dark. Hayes staggered back, pale, shaking. He's gone. He's gone. Kane pulled him to his feet. Move! They reached the maintenance level, narrow corridors filled with pipes and wiring. Emergency lights glowed red, pulsing like a heartbeat. The air was warmer here, because I was close. A pipe burst overhead, showering them with steam. Hayes screamed, thinking it was an attack. Kane dragged him forward. Keep going! They reached the emergency exit, a ladder leading up to a heavy hatch. Kane climbed first. Hayes covered below. He pushed the hatch. Locked. Completely sealed. Hayes whispered, "We're trapped." Kane didn't respond because I was behind Hayes. He sensed it. Too late. He turned slowly, rifle trembling. "Sarge." I stepped into the red light fully, finally letting him see what had been stalking them. Shoulders scraping the walls, arms too long, spine bent forward like an animal ready to charge, skin stretched tight over bones, pulsing faintly, mouth open, teeth dripping. Haze fired point blank, the rounds shredded into my torso, punching holes that closed immediately. I moved. I slapped his rifle away, grabbed him by the chest plate, and threw him into the far wall. His body hit hard enough to leave a dent. He dropped, coughing blood, ribs broken. Kane climbed halfway down the ladder, firing non-stop. "Get away from him!" I let the bullets hit me, let him empty the magazine. Then I grabbed Hayes by the neck and snapped it with a single twist. His body dropped like wet rope. Kane screamed and charged, knife in hand, a useless gesture, but a brave one. He plunged the blade into my arm. I didn't flinch. I grabbed his face with one hand and slammed him into the ladder cage. The impact made the metal ring like a bell. He slid to the floor, consciousness fading. I lifted him by the vest. "You shouldn't have come here," he whispered. I didn't answer. I just dragged him back into the dark corridors where Bunker 12 keeps its secrets. By morning, the lights were dead again, the doors unlocked, the forest quiet. Another squad will come eventually. I'll be waiting. They thought the perimeter would protect them. Cameras, floodlights, watchtowers. A perfect red circle on their maps, marking where nothing should ever get in. But I was inside that circle long before they arrived. Ridgepoint Base sat alone on a ridge with forest on every side. 20 soldiers on night rotation. Quiet, routine, predictable. That made it perfect. The disappearances started at 23:05. The first was Private Manning in the North Tower. He stopped responding to radio checks. Sergeant Duvall sent 2 men to look. They found no struggle, no blood. Just Manning's rifle leaning against the railing, and his thermal scope still turned on. The screen showed a heat signature standing at the edge of the perimeter, tall, still. That heat signature was me. A chill spread through the base after that. Duvall ordered tighter patrols. They all felt something was out there, but none of them dared to say what. At 23:22, Private Porter walked alone between the storage sheds when he heard footsteps behind him. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Slow, heavy. He spun around. Nothing was there, but I was. A single step behind him. I let him walk a few more meters before shifting the gravel under his boots. He fell hard, flashlight sliding across the ground and lighting up the edge of a building. I allowed a part of my body to lean out from behind the corner. An arm, a segment of leg, too long, too bent. Porter froze. Then he screamed. He didn't get back up. When the others reached the spot, all they found was his flashlight and drag marks leading into a dark gap between containers. Duvall's voice was tight when he regrouped everyone. Teams of 2. Nobody moves alone. He had no idea how deep I already was inside their defenses. They swept the base in pairs. rifles tied against their shoulders. I slipped between buildings, quiet as a shadow, brushing walls, knocking loose pipes, scratching metal panels, enough to make tension climb higher with every step. At 2340, the power went out, completely. Floodlights died, barracks went dark. Only the emergency alarm beeped in a slow, steady pulse. The generators restarted 10 seconds later. In those 10 seconds, I took Private Miller. He was checking power cables when I stepped behind him. He didn't feel my hand until it closed over his mouth. When the lights came back on, Duval saw the smashed electrical shed door, and Miller, lying nearby with his chest twisted in a way no human spine should allow. His vest had been ripped clean off in one pull. Panic hit them harder than the blackout. Duval tried to steady them, voice shaking. "Circle up. Weapons up! Stay inside of each other." They formed a defensive ring in the open yard. 8 soldiers pointing flashlights in all directions, nerves breaking with every second. I started the game. A metallic bang on a container to the east. They aimed. A scrape behind them on a different container. They spun around again. A heavy thump on the roof of the mess hall. They pointed up. Their lights jerked like they were following ghosts. They weren't. They were following me. Duval yelled, "Stop reacting to everything. Hold the perimeter. Nobody breaks formation." But one soldier already had. Private Reed. He stared at a narrow, dark gap between the storage units. "There's someone there. Someone standing there." Reed saw my eyes. Just the eyes. 2 dark points reflecting his flashlight. It was enough. He stumbled backward, tripped over a generator, and discharged a panicked burst of gunfire. A stray round tore through another soldier's shoulder. Their formation collapsed instantly. I walked behind Reed as he scrambled to his feet. He felt me before he saw me. He turned slowly, breath shaking, flashlight trembling. His scream echoed across the base. Then it cut short. By the time the others reached the spot, Reed had vanished. Only his flashlight remained, pointing at nothing. And for the first time, I left footprints, deep, inhuman tracks leading into the dark. Duval was losing control. He knew it. Fall back to the bunker. Move. They retreated to the underground annex, reinforced walls, metal doors, internal cameras. Their most secure point. They thought I wouldn't follow. As soon as they sealed the door, the first camera picked up movement. A long, grey arm crawling across the hallway ceiling. Too long, too slow, too deliberate. "Jesus Christ," someone whispered. The lights flickered, then went red. Emergency mode. The bunker door locked itself. Hard. Hydraulics slammed into place. They were trapped inside. I was already with them. I heard their breathing, their whispers, their panic rising in tiny bursts. They moved as a single cluster, weapons shaking. Then I appeared, just for one. Private Weston. He turned a corner and met my hand closing over his face. He didn't even shout. I ripped him into the server room, leaving only a smear of blood across the floor. The others rushed to the door, slamming into it, screaming his name. A moment later, they heard bones breaking on the other side. Duval fired at the lock, desperate. "We have to get out of here." They didn't. I shut off all the power again. Black. Complete black. Their breathing was the only thing I could hear, and even that trembled. One soldier bolted for the stairs. I caught him before he even touched the first step. The second fired blindly until his rifle clicked empty. He died a second later. That left Duval. He pressed himself against a monitor, flashlight shaking so badly the beam danced across the walls. "Please," he whispered. "Please just tell me what you are." I let him see me, fully. A towering frame, legs bent backwards, spine arched high, ribs pushing through grey skin, mouth open too wide, teeth long, like shards of bone. Duval screamed and fired point blank. Bullets sank into my torso like punching into wet clay. I swatted his rifle aside. He fell, tried to crawl. I grabbed him by the back of the neck. He had no strength left. I extinguished his voice gently, almost quietly. By sunrise, Ridgepoint Base was silent. Lights off, antennas dead, rooms empty. The next patrol will find nothing wrong, nothing unusual, until they step into the red perimeter, where I wait. They came into the city thinking it was empty. That was their first mistake. A 5-man special operations team entered the abandoned district at 2:47. Night vision on, rifles up, boots silent on broken pavement. Their target was a safe house rumored to host a hostile cell. But they found no enemy fighters, no civilians, no bodies, only me. The city had been dead for years. Concrete ruins, shattered windows, cars rusted to their frames. The squad moved in staggered formation, sweeping doorways and alleys. Sergeant Maddox led them, focused, confident. A man who believed in procedure. But procedure means nothing when you're hunting something that isn't human. They reached the intersection 2 blocks from the target house. That's where Private Lane stopped. Did you guys hear that? They didn't. Only he did. Because I whispered his name first. He spun around, scanning broken buildings. "Lane, eyes forward," Maddox ordered. But Lane wasn't looking at the street. He was staring upward, toward the roof of a gutted apartment building, toward me. I let him see a fraction. A silhouette crouched on the ledge, limbs stretched wrong, head tilted too far to the side. Lane's breath caught in his throat. "Maddox, something's up there." They looked. I was already gone. The squad kept moving, but Lane stuck close to Maddox now. He felt me trailing them, shifting from rooftop to rooftop, slipping behind broken walls. They reached the safe house at 311. 2 floors, windows barred, door reinforced. No lights, no movement. "Stack up," Maddox whispered. The breach was silent. Controlled charges, quick entry. The whole team rushing in with precision. They cleared the ground floor in seconds. Empty. The second floor took longer, not because it was large, but because they felt watched. Private Dyer shined his weapon light down a hallway and froze. "Something's at the end." "Identify it," Maddox ordered. I think it's Price. Price was their teammate. He'd vanished 4 months earlier on another mission. Dyer saw him standing at the far end of the corridor, same gear, same helmet, same stance. Price? Dyer whispered. Maddox pushed past him. Clear your head. He's dead, Dyer. It's not him. But Dyer didn't listen. He stepped forward, and I stepped back into the darkness. Dyer followed, weapon shaking. He rounded the corner, and I grabbed him. The squad heard only one thing, the wet sound of a body hitting the floor. Contact! Maddox shouted. They moved as one, sweeping the hallway, flashlight slicing through the dark. They found Dyer, spine bent, neck twisted, eyes wide open. He hadn't even fired a shot. Fuck, Lane whispered. Before Maddox could respond, I dragged someone else into the shadows. Williams was walking rear security. He saw a shape cross behind him. He turned, too slow. I gripped his mouth, silencing him instantly, and pulled him through a broken doorway. His boots scraped the floor as he tried to resist. No one heard him over their own shouting. By the time the squad found the room, Williams was hanging from the ceiling pipe, limbs dangling, armor shredded. Lane backed away, trembling. This isn't human. This isn't human. Maddox grabbed him by the vest. Lane, focus on me. We are getting out. But I wasn't done yet. They tried to retreat downstairs. The staircase was narrow, lit only by their shaky flashlights. Maddox led, Lane behind him, and Tilson watching the rear. Tilson heard me first, claws scraping concrete. He spun, firing upward, bullets carving sparks across a support beam. Movement, he yelled. Then I dropped from above. They saw me, for the first time. Not a shadow, not a reflection. Me. Long, twisted limbs. Skin stretched tight like wet leather. Jaws splitting wider than a face should open. Eyes with no reflection, no soul. Tilson screamed and unloaded half a magazine into my chest. The round sank in but didn't slow me. I leapt forward, hitting him with a force that cracked the staircase railing. His body tumbled down the steps and hit the floor below. He didn't move again. Maddox and Lane fired desperately while stumbling backward. They hit nothing that mattered. Their shots cut through dust and old wallpaper. I dropped from the ceiling right between them. Lane tried to run. I caught him by the ankle. He fell face first, screaming, clawing at the floor. Maddox turned, firing blindly into me. I let him feel hope for 2 seconds. Then I pulled Lane into the dark corridor and slammed the door shut between us. Maddox hit the door with his shoulder. Lane! Lane! Lane's screams stopped instantly. Maddox stood alone, sweat dripping, breathing hard, trigger finger shaking. He wasn't afraid of dying. He was afraid of being the last one alive. He ran, down the stairs, through the ground floor, out the busted front door, into the empty street. His boots smashed through puddles as he sprinted through the ruined city. He didn't look back until he reached the open intersection. He shouldn't have, because he saw me there, standing in the middle of the road, tall, still, waiting. He froze. I moved first. He fired in panic, the muzzle flashes lighting up my figure step by step. Each shot only made me appear closer in the brief bursts of light, like a nightmare flickering toward him. He tripped over debris and fell. His ammo was gone, his weapon useless. He crawled backward until he hit a collapsed storefront. I reached him slowly, deliberately. I wanted him to feel every second of it. He tried one last thing. He reached for the radio. "Command, this is Maddox. Team is down." I crushed the radio in his hand. His eyes widened as he finally asked the question they always ask. "What are you?" I leaned close enough for him to smell the dust and rot on my breath. I didn't answer. I tore his throat open instead. By sunrise, the city was silent again. Another dead district no one cared about. By noon, Command would send another raid team to find out why Maddox never checked in. And just like that, the cycle continues. I'll be waiting. Tunnels aren't safe for soldiers. They trap sound, hide movement, twist direction. And once you're deep enough, the darkness stops belonging to you. It belongs to me. The 4-man recon team entered the cave system at 1842. Narrow entrance, limestone walls, stale air. Their helmets had mounted floodlights, but the beams barely cut through the dust. They weren't there for me. They were searching for 2 missing geologists. They should have stayed outside. Sergeant Holt led again. Different mission, different team. He scanned the entry chamber with his hand raised. "No echoes. Sound's dead. Stay tight." Corporal Briggs checked the comms. Static. Private Watson muttered, "We're not alone down here." He was right. The cave wasn't silent. I was breathing with them. They descended deeper, following a thin utility line left from previous surveys. The cave line. A bright white rope guiding explorers back to daylight. Holt made sure every man kept a hand or shoulder close to it. "You lose the line," he warned. "You're gone." He didn't know how true that was. They reached the first chamber. The air grew warmer. Walls glistened as if something wet had passed recently. "Fresh moisture?" Briggs asked. Watson's light swept across a smear on the rock. It looked like a handprint, but stretched. Long, wrong. "Hell no," Watson whispered. Holt touched the smear with a glove. Not blood. Some kind of secretion. It was mine. They moved on, tension rising. The tunnel narrowed to a single-file path. Their lights flickered. The cave walls absorbed the brightness, making the darkness feel alive. At 1910, they found the first body. One of the missing geologists. His head was bent backwards nearly 180 degrees, mouth torn wider than natural, eyes bulging. He was pinned to the wall by several deep claw marks. Watson gagged. "Jesus, what did that?" I brushed past behind him, letting air shift. He spun around, no one there, but he felt the breath on his neck. The line trembled slightly, not from them. They didn't understand what that meant. They kept going, though every instinct told them to turn back. Holt forced them forward. "Find the second researcher, then we're out." They reached another chamber, larger, echoing, with a pool of shimmering black water in the center. Briggs scanned it. "Looks deep." Watson knelt, shining his light across the surface. Something moved beneath the water, fast. Watson jerked back, slipping. "There's something in there!" There was, but I wasn't in the water. I was behind them. Watson fell onto his back, light pointing at the ceiling. He screamed. He saw me crawling upside down across the roof of the cavern. Limbs bent the wrong way, hands gripping stone, face inches from him. Holt and Briggs whipped their rifles up, firing at the ceiling. Bullets ricocheted off rock. Dust poured down. Their lights caught nothing, because I'd already slipped back into the tunnels. Watson scrambled up, breathing like he was drowning. "That wasn't human. Holt, that wasn't..." "I know," Holt said, voice shaking. "Stay on the line. Move." They followed the rope toward the deeper passages. Their lights flickered. The air vibrated faintly. I scraped my claws along the walls. Slow, long, deliberate. The caves echoed the sound like a distant growl. When they reached the next junction, they froze. The line had been cut, clean, precise. Briggs' voice cracked. "No! No, no, no! Who cut it?" None of them dared answer. Watson ran his fingers along the severed end. "It's warm." It was. I had cut it seconds before they arrived. Holt pulled them together. "We fall back. Same route." But as they turned, they saw it. The line behind them, leading back toward the entrance, was missing. Gone. Watson shook his head rapidly, whispering. It was right there. It was right there. I had been taking it away in the dark, one piece at a time, leaving them with no path home. They backed into the chamber again, scanning wildly. Holt whispered, "Stay close. Weapons ready." They waited. Silence. Total silence. Then I dropped from the ceiling behind Briggs. He didn't see me. He only heard the cracking of his own ribs as my arm wrapped around his chest. He screamed. Holt and Watson spun, opening fire. Bullets bounced everywhere, lighting the cavern in flashes. They hit Briggs twice. He collapsed. Not dead, but dying fast. They dragged him back, but his chest was crushed, his breathing shallow. "What the hell is that thing?" Watson screamed. I stepped into the light for the first time. Full silhouette. Long limbs dragging across the ground, torso twisted, jaws opening sideways. Watson fired until his gun clicked empty. I rushed him. He tried to run. I grabbed his leg and slammed him into the wall. His helmet cracked like a cheap shell. His body slid down, twitching, until it stopped. Two left. Holt and Briggs, barely conscious. Holt tried to pull Briggs up, shouting, "Stay with me! Stay with me!" But Briggs' head lolled. His breath stopped. Holt dropped him gently to the ground. He stood alone now. His flashlight shook violently as he spun in circles. How do you fight something like you?" I moved behind him, letting the light catch only glimpses. A limb here, a rib there, a shifting shadow, until he broke. He ran blindly into a side tunnel, slipping on wet stone, dropping his flashlight. Darkness swallowed him whole. He tried climbing upward, palms slapping rock, desperate to find an exit scratch on the walls. I followed quietly. His breathing echoed, his boots scraped, his heart hammered in rhythm with the cavern. He reached a dead end, turned around, saw nothing. Then felt my hand close around his face. He screamed into my palm as I dragged him down into the narrow passage, deep into the cave system, farther than any map showed, deeper and deeper, until the tunnels belonged only to him and me. He stopped screaming long before we reached the bottom. By morning, the entrance team called for him over radio. They got nothing back. Their voices barely reached the first chamber. They didn't hear the echoes of halt, still faintly bouncing through the stone. They didn't hear me, waiting. Water hides things better than dirt, better than snow, better than shadow. It swallows sound, it slows movement, and in deep, dark places, it becomes the perfect hunting ground. The 3-man dive team entered the flooded military outpost at 0512. Cold water, pitch black corridors, pressure high enough to crush lungs without the suits. They weren't here to fight. They were here to recover intel that had been left behind decades ago. They didn't know the outpost wasn't empty. I had been drifting through its drowned hallways for years. Lieutenant Harris led the dive, checking his wrist display, marking their descent. Behind him, divers Whitlock and Perez moved in perfect formation, lights sweeping across rusted doors and algae-covered walls. The water was silent, too silent. Not even the usual crackle of shifting metal, because I wasn't letting it move. Perez tapped Harris's shoulder, pointing at a door slightly ajar. A faded sign read, "Weapons storage, level 2. Harris signaled enter. They formed up and pushed the door. It groaned underwater, releasing a cloud of silt that swallowed their lights. Perez swept his beam around, white helmets, old dive suits, 6 of them, floating gently against the ceiling, bodies. Whitlock's breathing spiked. Harris grabbed his arm to calm him. "Stay focused. Do your job." They didn't know those weren't bodies. Not anymore. As they moved past the corpses, one suit shifted slightly. Whitlock froze. The helmet turned. Just a few degrees, but enough. Whitlock jerked backward, bubbles bursting from his mask. He pointed frantically, but when Harris swept his light, the suits were still. Still, but tilted differently. I drifted around them silently, letting their minds unravel. They exited the room, heading deeper into the facility. Every step pushed clouds of silt into the water, making the place feel suffocating. The deeper they went, the darker everything became. Their lights weakened. Water felt thicker. Perez tapped Harris's arm again and pointed down the hallway. A shadow moved. Not fast, not slow, just wrong. Harris used hand signals. Possible hostile. Stay close. Whitlock nodded, gripping his underwater rifle. But they weren't hunting anything. I was hunting them. They entered the old operations room. Chairs floated near the ceiling. A desk lay upside down. Paperwork drifted like dead jellyfish. Something drifted behind them too. Whitlock saw it first. A hand, grey, long, sliding across the wall behind Harris's back. He tried to shout, but only a muffled grunt escaped his regulator. He spun and fired a burst of underwater rounds. The bubbles and recoil blurred his vision. When the water cleared, there was nothing. Only Harris glaring at him with fury. "Control yourself," Whitlock nodded, embarrassed and terrified. Perez didn't move. He stared into the doorway behind them. Harris followed his gaze and saw me. Just for a second. My silhouette stretched across the corridor, limbs drifting like drifting weeds, eyes reflecting their lights with a cold, pale glow. Harris snapped his rifle up. I slipped behind the wall. They backed away slowly. Harris gestured. "Return route. Move now." Too late. The outpost had shifted. Doors that led to the exit were blocked by collapsed beams and floating debris. Corridors had warped. Water pressure pulsed in strange rhythms. Perez checked his wrist display. Depth had increased by 10 meters. They hadn't moved downward. The outpost had pulled them deeper. Harris signaled, "Find another exit." Whitlock looked close to panicking. Perez stayed silent. I drifted behind them, matching their pace perfectly. At the next junction, something grabbed Whitlock's fin. He jerked forward, arms flailing, bubbles exploding from his mask. Harris caught him by the vest. Perez swept his rifle around wildly. Nothing there. Whitlock pointed at his fin. 3 long scratches carved into it. Not cuts, claw marks. Harris gestured to move, urgency rising. They swam faster now, lights bouncing through narrow corridors. Then they reached the flooded hangar, a massive chamber with rusted support beams and a half-sunken armored vehicle. Visibility long and open, too open. Perez swept his beam across the space. Something was floating above them, large, still, shaped like a person, but stretched. He pointed upward. As Harris raised his light, the thing folded upward, unnaturally fast, as if crawling into the darkness of the ceiling. Whitlock screamed into his regulator. Harris ordered a fallback, but the moment they turned, I blocked the exit. Not all of me, just enough. A hand reached into the beam of Harris's light. Massive, grey, webbed between long, bony fingers, nails like shards of stone. Perez fired. The rounds tore through the water but slowed instantly, bouncing off the metal behind me. Whitlock bolted, swimming toward the opposite door. Harris shouted at him, but Whitlock was gone, disappearing into a side corridor. I followed him first. The corridor twisted downward. Whitlock's breathing grew rapid and loud inside his mask. He shined his light behind him, saw nothing. Then he looked forward. I was there, filling the corridor, head tilted, jaw unhinged. Whitlock tried to scream. He inhaled water instead. I grabbed him by the chest harness and crushed it. His body went limp instantly. I let him float upward, disappearing into the dark ceiling. Perez saw the shape drift above them and almost dropped his weapon. "Where's Whitlock? Where is he?" Harris didn't answer. He only signaled, "Go. Now." They kicked hard toward the far corridor, moving as fast as they could. I let them swim, let them think they'd escape. Then I surged through the ceiling beams, dropping behind Perez. My movement sent a wave through the water, pushing them forward. Perez turned. He saw my face, water filling the gaps of my teeth, skin stretched thin, eyes hollow. He fired point blank. The bullet spun uselessly in the water. I lunged. He disappeared under my weight, a cloud of blood spreading like ink. Harris screamed into his breather and swam blindly, kicking through the crimson cloud, shoving past debris. He reached a collapsed shaft. A faint glow from the surface filtered down from a narrow crack. Freedom. He pushed upward, squeezing through twisted metal, ripping his suit, scraping his oxygen tank. He burst into the surface pool above the outpost, gasping into his mask. He climbed onto a concrete ledge, panting hard, staring back into the black water. Nothing followed. He tore off his mask, shaking. I made it. I made it. He didn't hear me climb up behind him. My hand closed around his helmet, dripping water onto his neck. He froze. I dragged him back into the pool. His scream vanished the moment his head went under. When the ripples settled, the water was calm again. By sunrise, the rescue team saw nothing but an empty entrance. They assumed the divers had drowned deep inside. They were half right. They drowned, but not on their own. Radios are funny things. They're supposed to carry voices, but they can carry other things too, like me. The Special Forces team entered the favela at 1:19. 5 operators, moving through narrow alleys lined with broken walls and hanging wires. Their mission was routine: locate a missing unit whose last transmission ended with a scream and a garbled message. It's not human. They thought it was panic, or interference, or both. They never imagined the voice wasn't the missing team's. It was mine. Sergeant Vale led them, calm, sharp, confident. The kind of soldier who believed radios were just tools, nothing more. The favela was dead quiet. No lights, no dogs barking, no civilians. Just empty shacks and black windows. Private Sims whispered, "Feels wrong." Vale replied, "Stick to the plan. We reached the last known point. Sweep outward." They moved deeper, passing overturned furniture, bullet-pocked walls, and abandoned vehicles stripped to metal skeletons. The entire district looked like it had been evacuated in a single night, or eaten in a single night. Corporal Giro checked his radio, adjusting the antenna. Static, broken voices, a faint gasp. He frowned, picking up something. Sims laughed nervously. Probably nothing. But then the radio spoke. "Giro, help me." It was the voice of Corporal Bennett, missing for 48 hours. Giro froze. "It's him." Vale shook his head. "Impossible. Bennett's signal died completely. There's no repeater out here." The radio crackled again, louder. "Help me, please." Giro tried to reply, breath shaking. "Bennett, Bennett, is that you?" Silence. Then, "Behind you." The team spun instantly, rifles aimed. Nothing there. Just an alley leading into darkness. Vale yanked the radio from Giro's chest. "Everyone calm down. The signal's being spoofed. But I wasn't spoofing it. I was speaking through it. They moved on edge now, slower, scanning rooftops and windows. Every few minutes, the radio hissed with broken phrases. "Don't leave me. It's dark. Run," Jiro whispered. "He's alive. He has to be." Vale didn't answer. He knew that voice wasn't human anymore. They reached an open courtyard, the last known location of the missing unit. Bullet casings covered the ground, blood smeared across walls. A single radio lay on the ground, half crushed. Vale knelt beside it. "Bennett's," he said quietly. Sims pointed his rifle at a rusted door ahead. "Something moved inside," the radio hissed. "You shouldn't go in there." The team froze. "Vale," Sims whispered. "That was your voice." Vale's blood ran cold. He checked his mic. It was off. Then the radio repeated him perfectly. "Vale, that was your voice." Every word, every breath, exact tone. The team backed up, cinching tighter into formation. Jiro trembled. "It's copying us." I was better than any recorder. Something thumped inside the building, slow, heavy. Vale signaled breach formation. "We're going in. Whatever's in there killed Bennett's team." Sims swallowed hard. "And it's using their voices." They stacked on the door and pushed in. Inside was a small room with cracked walls and a staircase leading down. The smell hit them immediately. Rot, mud, blood, old sweat. Sims gagged. Jiro swept the room with his flashlight and gasped. A figure stood at the bottom of the stairs. Helmet, vest, rifle. Just like them. "Bennett?" Jiro whispered. The figure didn't move. Vale slowly descended, rifle up, breathing, steady. "Bennett, don't move. Hands where I can see them." The figure lifted its head. It wasn't Bennett. It was wearing Bennett's gear, but its body was wrong. Limbs stretched, torso caved inward, neck unnaturally long. Its eyes were dark hollows, and it smiled with a mouth that wasn't human. The radio screamed, "Get out! Get out! Get out!" Bennett's voice, but distorted, pitch shifted, broken. The creature lunged. Vale fired. Muzzle flashes lit up the whole stairwell. Bullets tore into the thing's torso, holes opening like wet clay. But it didn't stop. It hit Vale hard enough to knock him into the wall. His rifle dropped. Sims and Jiro opened fire, shots ripping through the dark, but I rushed up the stairs so fast the bullets barely grazed me. I slammed into Sims, sending him flying across the room. His spine cracked against a concrete pillar. He didn't get back up. Jiro's flashlight shook violently as he aimed at the staircase. "Back up! Back up!" But I was already beside him. I grabbed his wrist, twisted, and broke it clean. He screamed, dropping his rifle. I dragged him down the stairs, letting his boots slam against each step. Vale staggered to his feet, grabbing Sims's gun. He fired down the stairwell, the muzzle flashes revealing glimpses of me, dragging Jiro's body around the corner. He turned white. He heard Jiro screaming, then coughing, then choking, then nothing. Vale backed up into the courtyard again, alone, shaking. The radio on his vest crackled. "You left us." Vale froze. That was Jiro's voice. You left us to die. Then Sims's voice joined in. You ran. Vale stared at his radio like it was poison. He ripped it off and threw it across the courtyard. It landed in the dirt and kept speaking. You didn't save us. Now, no one will save you. All three voices overlap now. Bennett, Sims, Jiro. All twisted versions of their real tones. Vale turned and ran. He sprinted through narrow alleys, stumbling over debris, slipping on wet concrete. He didn't know where he was going, just away. He looked back once. He shouldn't have. I was running on the rooftops above him, matching his speed easily, limbs bending as I galloped. He screamed and turned a corner. Dead end. He raised his rifle, hands shaking so violently, the barrel bounced. Stay back, he shouted. The radio behind him whispered, Vale. He turned. I was there. A mass of limbs, ribs showing through stretched skin, jaw splitting wider than a human face, eyes hollow like deep pits. He fired until the clip went empty. I didn't slow down. I reached him, grabbed him by the vest, lifted him off the ground like a child. He stared into my face, voice breaking. What for you? I pressed my head close to his ear, and I answered through every radio in the entire district at once. Your last transmission. Then I crushed his throat. By sunrise, Command received Vale's final recorded message. It was nothing but static and echoes, and a faint voice saying, Help me. But none of them recognized that it wasn't Vale speaking. It was me.